Hi everyone, welcome back to Living with Anxiety, Panic, and PTSD. I'm Enrique. I'll be your host. This video is another video in a series of building our support systems, and this one will focus on communicating with our partner. And today I have a very special guest, one of my favorite people in the whole world, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Pat. I've been married to him for 20 years.
20 years, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, so thank you for agreeing to come on here, Dare, and talking about what it is to be someone who lives with a person who has anxiety and panic. I know it's been hard, um, and our communication has not always been the greatest. Like over the last 20 years, we've worked and grown on it. But what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely a work in progress. I think it's gotten better. Um, and we talk more, so we're more open now. But, that's 20 years. 20 years in the making, so.
Right, it takes lots of practice.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Let me ask you this: do you remember the first panic attack that I had?
Yeah, I think it was probably back in 2006. And you weren't officially diagnosed with the mental illness back then. You were having chest pain, um, your palms were sweating, and I didn't know what to do. So, you said you didn't feel good, and I said, let's go to the ER. And that was just the first trip.
Right.
I think throughout, I want to say even that month, we made multiple trips to the ER.
Yeah.
And then I started seeing a pattern. I'm like, okay, the doctor's saying there's nothing wrong with him. He's not having a heart attack. They're doing EKGs and all that stuff, and there wasn't anything wrong with you. So that's when I thought, okay, what else could be wrong?
Right. And I think I saw a doctor for a short time during that time, and I'm not sure that that helped very much. I know once we had gone through those ER
Mm-hmm.
trips, like I knew, okay, I'm not dying, so I can just hide this.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
and then when you went to the doctor, he tried to prescribe you medication,
Right.
and you being the hard head that you are, you didn't want to take medication. I think it took a long time, a long time for you to even accept, I should, that there is something wrong with me. I should be taking medication, and it was, and when we're talking about the medication, it was you did try it out, and you just didn't get the results that you wanted. I think there were times where it made it worse for you.
Right.
So
And I'm glad you brought up the fact that I'm a hard head because it did take a long time even for me to realize that there was something wrong and I needed help. And I think that's separate from deciding to take medication, right? Like,
mm,
if we think about it, like the first really big um, anxiety session was, I think, in 2017, right?
mm-hmm.
And that's one of the first ones that put me out of work. And I don't remember how long I was out of work, but it really brought home, and made us face how this was impacting our lives, right? Like not only my work, but our relationship with each other, right? Um, what did you go through, or what are your thoughts on that first episode that put me out of work? Like, how did you manage that? Because I know it's hard.
Yeah, it was definitely hard. At first, I was in denial. You could say, I had the old school thinking. Mental illness is the taboo. You don't want to let anybody know what's going on. I was a little bit embarrassed, because you shouldn't. My husband shouldn't be feeling this way.
Right.
It's like, what's wrong with him.
Right.
But then once I started understanding what it was, um, that's when I thought, okay, I need to help you out. You are suffering, and I need to be there for you to go through this.
Right. And the cool thing is like you do know a lot of my history. We won't go into it on camera, but you know a lot of my history and probably what the reasons that I ended up facing some of these things. But with that being said, like how how did it make you feel? Like for me, as the person living with anxiety, like it was hard for me to come to you and tell you, hey, I can't do the things that I'm supposed to, or let's say supposed to do for you, right? Like
Right.
the unwritten rules of what a partner should be, and it was really hard because, and that's why one of the reasons I was hiding it so much from you is that I wanted to be that strong person that you know I'm supposed to be, the person that
Right.
does these things,
Yeah.
and to come to you and say, hey, I can't work, I can't go to the store, I can't do all these things that normally would be able to be done. Like, how did you feel when I first came and told you about, like, I can't, you know, you asked me to go grocery, okay, I can't do that. Like, I could try.
I think in the beginning it was okay. Is he making excuses?
Right.
Um, and then once I saw that you were suffering, it was okay. I will take on the burden of you know the the task that you need to be doing, because it hurt me to see you suffer. Um, so I had to be the strong one
Right.
in the relationship, um, even though it was really hard. There were times where I'd go upstairs and start crying because I tell myself, how am I gonna do this? How do I?
It's okay.
um, Sorry.
Don't be sorry. So, what, like, we're talking about support systems right now, right? And you having all of this emotional stuff while we're talking about it, brings to mind, like, what type of support systems did you put in place to help you do this? Because I know, being that it's a hard thing to be, the partner to somebody who's living with these things.
Yeah,
Like,
I couldn't do it alone. The support system can't do it alone. The support system has to have a support system.
right,
And I had my family. I had my siblings, my sisters. Um, they didn't. I didn't know all the things that was going on, but I hinted it, and when they knew that I was in a rut, and I would tell them, I feel depressed, and so forth. They bring me out of it, and try to, make me, happy and or whatnot. So, I had that support system. It was, I had someone to turn to because you I couldn't do it alone.
right.
I could pretend to be strong for so long, and then you just sometimes it's like, okay, this is too much.
Yeah. And, and sadly, like, I'll be honest, like, I know you couldn't turn to me because my emotions are kind of broken. Like,
Right.
like when and it's not on purpose, but like for me, dealing with emotions is, I don't deal with them at all very well. So if you came to me being like, hey, I'm feeling this, like, I probably, not that I wouldn't understand, but I'd probably understand it differently than you'd expect.
Yeah.
And I know that's not helpful. And that brings to mind, like because I deal with these things, and we communicate so well, like, I'm brutally honest with you
Mhm.
a lot of the time, right? And I know that's been hard for you, like, to hear the things that
Oh
I have
yeah.
to say, especially when I'm suffering from like an anxiety attack or a panic attack. Um, how did that make you feel? Um, listening to me tell you the truth.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I took it personal. It hurt my feelings because there's times where you are having that attack, and you're sitting there and trying to watch TV, and I come sit next to you, and you're like, I just want to be left alone.
Right.
And in the beginning, I thought, okay, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? And then I realized, okay, I'm just gonna leave him alone and let him, do what he needs to do. And I think later on, once the attack passed, you'd come and talk to me and say, it's not you, it's me, and you'd explain, what you were going through, and that helped a lot because I didn't, I didn't understand it. I can say, yeah, I saw what was going on, but it took a while to actually understand because I used to tell you, everything's gonna be okay, and you said, that is the worst thing that you can tell me because I know there's something wrong with me, and you telling me that everything's gonna be okay, it doesn't make sense.
Right. And so, what did you end up learning to tell me in those times? Like what made it easier to deal with?
I think I just had to show my support. Let you have that attack, meaning if you're having the chest pain and the sweaty palms, I'd ask you, okay, what can I do to help you? Do we need to call your doctor? I think you needed that validation also, right?
Right.
When you're having that chest pain, you want a health professional to tell you you're not having a heart attack, or you want to have that EKG to say
Right.
you didn't have a heart attack.
Right.
So you needed that validation. So I just went with the flow. It's not that I encouraged it, but it was, I'll let you do what you need to do to let this pass.
Right. And honestly, I think you doing that was really a big key to me being able to work through it, because when in the early days when I'd tell you things and you would say, oh, there's nothing wrong, you're gonna be okay, in my mind it felt like you didn't believe it, you didn't believe I was going through
and
something.
I didn't believe it. I think after the multiple trips to the ER, I started thinking, okay, I don't believe you anymore.
Right.
And it was, I'm not gonna let you trick yourself to thinking that there is something wrong with you.
Right.
So I think it was different phases. It was in the beginning, we didn't know what was going on, so I encouraged it. Let's go to the ER. Let's make sure that there's nothing wrong with you. And then after I saw the pattern, it was, okay, there's nothing wrong with you. I don't know. I don't believe what you're saying.
Right.
And then I think the key was the communication.
Right.
You actually were more open. You told me what was happening, and that's when I started understanding. It's a mental thing.
Right.
And then and I think the turning point was when I used to tell you everything's gonna be okay, and then you finally got mad and you're like, you are not helping. You're not helping by saying that. You're not helping me. And I was like, I thought I was by telling you there's nothing wrong. You're gonna be okay,
Right.
And so, that having that talk, I think that was a turning point, and that's when I started understanding. Okay, I just I have to support you. I have to be there for you.
Right.
So.
And it's not. The reality is you don't have to be. It's a choice.
It's a choice. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we're married. We've been married 20 years, and it's the vows that I took. For richer, for poor, and sickness and in health.
Right.
And I couldn't just turn my back and let you suffer on your own. It was the love that I had for you, to take on, the burden of being the support system and trying to be the strong one.
Right.
While you were going through that, and it's a give and take, right? It's not like you're having you have these attacks for 14, 15 years, every single day. There were times where you were fine,
Right.
everything was fine, and then all of a sudden, it started slowing back, and you started having attacks again. So
Right. And anybody that believes that love is easy, like, probably hasn't gone through much.
yeah,
Going through all this together, we have kind of understood how much work it takes to help each other, right?
Yeah.
Through different things. And, being that you're the support system, or that you've been the support system for me for dealing with this stuff, and keep in mind, there's support systems for every type of thing, but we're talking specifically for anxiety, the anxiety and panic part. What type of advice would you give to somebody who's a partner to someone who's living with anxiety and panic? Like what would be some of the things that you'd want them to keep in mind to help them get through this a lot easier?
I think the first thing is, no one's perfect. You shouldn't do it alone. Like I said before, I have a support system also. And then just be open. I think the communication, needs to be there. If you didn't tell me what was going on, there's no way that I would know how to help you out.
Right.
So the communication is key. That's all I can think of.
Those are actually good advice. Like, in communication is not easy, of course.
Right.
We know this, and it's taken us 20 years to get to our point of communication. And it takes a lot of effort for two people to learn how to communicate well together.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a really good point. Thanks for taking the time to, be on this with me, and hopefully our conversation, the way we're talking to each other, and what we've discussed, helps some of our viewers, maybe have those conversations with their partners,
Definitely.
and helps them understand that it's not something that's easy to go through, and it's very hard for everybody. Like you're a seasoned person at this, right? and even to this day, I think sometimes it gets hard.
Yeah, it's still a learn in progress. It's I'm not saying I'm an expert,
Right.
right? But now I know how to help you out,
Right.
and there's still gonna be difficult days ahead.
Right.
But we'll do this together.
That's right. And thank you, dear. and for everyone else, as usual, thank you for joining us for this conversation. And remember, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like covered in our videos, please email them to empanic2021@gmail.com. If you think you're suffering from a mental health issue, please get in touch with a mental health professional and start getting treatment. If you're in a crisis mode, please dial 911 and get immediate assistance. Remember, we are not alone. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.